Imagine being sent across the ocean in itchy wool, paid basically nothing, just to get roasted by teenagers calling you a lobsterback. Welcome to Boston, 1770. Where the insults were free, the snowballs were weaponized, and the British Army was everyone's favorite punchline. Before the shots of Lexington and Concord, before the Declaration, even before Paul Revere got his horse warmed up, American colonists were already fighting back, with humor. And by humor, I mean heckling, taunting, public humiliation, and the 1700s equivalent of trolling. Let's get into how mockery became a political weapon. Colonists had a whole buffet of insults. Lobsterbacks, bloodybacks, tyrants, and probably a few that didn't make it into the official depositions. They mocked soldiers' accents, their tiny paychecks, their marching, their discipline. Basically, if you were in a red coat, you were the entertainment. And this happened everywhere. Streets, taverns, markets, pretty much anywhere two or more colonists were gathered. Taverns were political hot zones. Imagine a modern bar, but instead of arguing about sports, everyone is loudly insulting imperial authority. Off-duty soldiers walking in for a drink were prime targets. Locals surrounded them, baited them, and sometimes escalated things into actual fights. British officers complained constantly that soldiers couldn't walk through Boston without being verbally abused. Honestly, they weren't exaggerating. But the fun wasn't just limited to the redcoats. Officials and loyalists were also fair game for ridicule. Loyalists might be called a Tory, which was like being called a traitor or crown bootlicker, or a viper if you are a neighbor who sides with the empire, or a king's rat for informants, in which case colonial snitches definitely got stitches, or you were an importer, a business who broke a boycott. Good luck getting any business after that. Congratulations, you're now the 1770s version of a social media cancel campaign. And tax collectors? I wonder how many times a day he was told to F off. Authority depends on three things: dignity, inevitability, and fear. Ridicule attacks all three at once. Mock a ruler, and suddenly, they stop seeming inevitable, they stop seeming invincible, they stop seeming serious. A king who becomes a meme isn't a king anymore. He's a character. And once you can laugh at power, you've already taken some of it away. In repressive or high-stakes environments, open resistance is dangerous. But ridicule is plausibly deniable rebellion. Laughing becomes a safe test of who's on your side. And historically, ridicule almost always comes before open rebellion, because it makes dissent feel socially safe long before it's legally safe. Authoritarian power feeds on fear. Ridicule flips the script. Fear says they're dangerous. Ridicule says they're ridiculous. And contempt destroys compliance. People obey what they fear, they resist what they scorn. This emotional shift has toppled more regimes than armies have. Here's the thing about power: it hates being mocked. And when authorities crack down on jokes, they almost always make things worse. By jailing comedians, banning memes, and censoring satire, you're confirming insecurity, validating the mockery, and alienating moderates. Not to mention, you look petty. Suppressing ridicule rarely restores dignity. It just shows everyone that the emperor is thin-skinned and doesn't have the leadership or fortitude to handle power. Ridicule forces asymmetric conflict. Ridicule is cheap, and repression is expensive. A joke costs nothing. Policing jokes costs legitimacy, money, manpower, and draws attention to the message you're trying to silence. That imbalance makes ridicule one of the most powerful tools for colonized people, protest movements, and dissidents under authoritarian rule. It's resistance that scales upward. Let's give the colonists a 10 out of 10 for understanding the assignment.